to ET Now Startup Central, the first and only daily show in India dedicated purely to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Karanya Rao. We have a power-packed show lined up for you over the next 20-odd minutes. So let's kickstart the show by the big news of the day. iPhone maker unveiled its long-awaited Apple TV Plus original content streaming service, joining a crowded market for streaming options. However, the subscription service was unveiled without a price tag, making it difficult to evaluate how the new ventures will stack up to Netflix, Amazon Prime and other competitors who are operating within the space. The service will be ad-free and available on Apple devices as well as other platforms such as Roku and Amazon Fire TV. So that's the big update that we will be discussing the first thing on Startup Central. We have a couple of guests joining in as well. Jaipal Singh, Associate Research Manager, Client Devices from IDC. We also have Harish Chawla, Partner, True Norths, an active angel investor. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome on board. And of course, we have to come to Jaipal first. We had a chat on this yesterday, and a lot of what we discussed has been announced. Anything that took you by surprise?
So mostly everything in place for me, Apple apart from the Apple Card, which was quite a surprise for me. But it makes sense for a company which is sitting a customer base of close to 600 million, and understanding the customer base of Apple. So these are the people who are buying a smartphone of close to $1,000, and usually are the people who are highest spender and highest earner in the world. So if you are setting something this kind of user base, so all the opportunities looks a positive direction from this kind of customer base. Coming to your point, I think Apple TV Plus was a additional plus point that was really appreciated. And also from my personal point of view, I really like the kind of partnership they announced in this subscription model.
Again, some very interesting names have come up when it comes to the kind of partnerships that they are looking out for and are luring the consumers, are already generating that excitement among consumers. But Mrs. Chawla, I'll come to you now. What is your take on Apple TV Plus? It's a crowded space, but Apple may set the tone with new price points and of course exciting partnerships that they've started to unveil.
Yeah, so my sense is that you're sitting on the most lucrative consumer base all over the world, and we know how locked in Apple consumers are with their devices. So I don't think we should look at Apple TV Plus as only a movie streaming or a content streaming business. They are setting up a whole line of services businesses in which entertainment, news and movies and gaming are all going to combine themselves. Now we have to see whether they're going to separate out the pricing for these things, or they'll create such attractive packs that you essentially end up buying a whole suite of these services at one price, right? And therefore, depending on what your age profile is or what your consumption profile is, you will consume any of these services. So I don't think you should just separate it out and take a straight comparison with Netflix. I think what may happen in a few years is that consumers of Apple services will actually subscribe to a pack from Apple and may continue to have a Netflix or a Disney pack, or even Hotstar, for example, in their package. And as we have seen, Apple continues to charge rent to all these people to access Apple devices, and Apple will earn therefore both ways. They will have their own set of services, plus also resell other people's services. So I think the fact that they have, in a sense, their control over the consumer and the consumer experience, I mean, they are able to charge rent from both ends of the game. Absolutely. So it's a fantastic move by the company, which is seeing its devices business actually go through a temporary slowdown as it, we've seen the smartphone market saturate. And now I think it has to still pick up a lot more on wearables, on earpods and Apple Watches. So I think you're seeing a shift where it's realizing that there is the top end of the smartphone market is already saturated. Devices, wearables are still to kick in. And therefore, services business to build out, hugely profitable. Actually, some of the services businesses also create their own lock-in. And the third thing they're also doing, I think what people are not seeing is that they're also going to, while their devices are premium, I think the fact that they will make Apple TV available on Samsung and other platforms really is also going to massify their service business. So they may reach people even beyond their own, let's say, 800 to a billion people consumer universe. So I think some of these things we still have to see them play it out. But We've seen Microsoft do it a few years ago, where it essentially opened its platform up in a much in a very aggressive manner, and it paid off dividends. I think we're seeing Apple do that as well.
Right, there's a very interesting thing you mentioned. Of course, there's a lot of potential to grow in this space, and it is, a space to be, given how so many players are entering the content and OTT platforms in a very, very big way. They are creating original content, not just, sort of partnering with the existing ones. But what is the potential do you see now that you said that the smartphone market, the smartphone segment has really sort of topped out? So what is the potential do you see for Apple to scale up in a domain like this? Also, keeping in mind the scenario where everybody else is also now starting to sort of enter the space in a big way.
Look at even just the bare audience base, it's 6-7 times that of Netflix. So, if Netflix is getting $8 or $10 or $12 from you per month, can Apple take $5-6 just for their movie businesses or streaming business? Can they take a couple of more dollars for you from gaming? Can they pick up a couple more dollars from you for providing news? So my sense is that the market size that Apple can address is massive compared to what we've seen other players do. And that, I'm saying, is in addition to the fact that they, as an aggregator of other services, also charge a rent of between 15 and 30%. So I think it's a classical game where a company has got a great user base and is now proceeding to figure out how to serve them more services. Even if you see what they've done on payments, I mean, it's fantastic. They're suddenly becoming the largest credit card company by turning on a switch. I mean, you'll have an addressable base of 600-700 million people. And you're riding on the rails that other people have built. The banking license and the regulation and the regulatory overhead Goldman Sachs has to carry. The infrastructure of the transaction is being done by MasterCard. They've got the terminal set up. They're doing the matching. They're doing the security of the transaction. And Apple is just putting an interface over these businesses. And is suddenly, what has taken banks maybe decades to build, it's been able to switch on overnight. So, I mean, we'll see this play out, but you realize that everybody probably wants to have an Apple card immediately, right? Because a customer of Apple already has the money, can afford. And a titanium card would find its way into every wallet of every Apple consumer soon. I mean, paying $2,000 for a phone, you'll happily want a card. Which you can, show off actually.
That you, touched upon the topic of credit cards. You tweeted about how Apple has commoditized the banking transaction layer. What does this mean for the end user?
No, for the end user, my sense is that you will find that, I think one thing is it's an aspirational card. The second thing is how the card and the phone together will create a lovely kind of fuzzy layer around your entire spending pattern, because you'll be able to see your card spend directly on the phone. So I think this fact that they've actually created the first physical virtual card, actually. The card has no number on it. It's got no CVV, nothing. So it's the ultimate card that's actually tied into your phone, and your phone is tied into you. And they've given it a physical format, because I think Apple realized that Apple Pay itself would have to set up new terminals, but going over MasterCard's network, which has been built over, let's say, a couple of decades, and tying up with a bank and making the bank an API supplier, much like you're seeing Uber use it. Uber uses the map. Uber doesn't make the map for the cars to, when you call a car. Uber doesn't even uses many other services to build its platform over them. It's Apple doing the same. You're suddenly getting access to the work that people have done over the years, and you're able to build a consumer interface over it.
It's an interesting point. Let me go across to Jayapal as well. On Apple TV Plus, Jayapal, what do you see working for them? They spoke a spate of originals, and looking at the kind of Hollywood lineup that was present at the event, their plans seem quite massive. So what could it be that could actually do the trick for Apple TV Plus, especially in a market such as India?
So perspective from India is totally different. When I see them in a market like USA, so definitely they are not competing with the Netflix over there. So users who are already subscribing to Netflix are not going to give up to Netflix on today and going to jump in on the Apple TV. It is going to be a progressive mode when people over the time, when they become more addictive to the overall ecosystem of Apple, they might shift to Apple TV in the longer term. But when it comes to India, India is a totally different market. India is the Android market. India is a market which is mobile first. India people usually not pay for the subscription, and most of the people who have entered to Indian market, they have totally transformed their pricing when they enter to India. We have recently seen how Spotify entered to market in India, and their pricing also. So in that case, I think the rollout will be limited for India market, because not only from the pricing perspective, from the content perspective also. In India, especially Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar have spent a lot of money on localizing the content here. We are the market where people consume content into multiple languages. It will be not easy for Apple, a market like India where a lot of vernacular languages are predominating the content or entertainment industry. So it will be a long haul where Apple needs to invest on a regular interval. And when they think about the India market, they have to think a little differently how they're progressing in the in the Western market.
Apple has to look beyond products like iPhones, which are facing sluggish sales. Even Harish Chawla was mentioning the same. Do you see them succeeding on a bet like this, like Apple TV Plus? And these are bets that take a long time to take off. And given that the market is now already starting to get invaded by so many players, what is your view? Where does Apple stand among its peers?
So definitely, if I compare them with some of the China-based vendors, which recently, making a big news because they have taken a lot of share from the Apple and some of the big global brands like Samsung. So they are still lagging in the entire ecosystem. Okay, so if I compare directly them with the Huawei, if I compare them to Oppo, or either compare with the Samsung, so definitely in that front, Apple has taken a lead. And if you're developing an ecosystem around the services, especially on the streaming part, because streaming as a business, as a user's content perspective, takes close to 70 or 80% of the overall data consumption happening on the mobile phone. So that itself, a lot of viable solution, because most of the time, what your users are spending on the video consumption. So in that perspective, if you are engaging your users on your platform, so that's giving you a freedom for you to, at least hold those users for a longer duration in your business. So what is happening on the devices side in the recent trend, what we have seen in a market like India, where people are quickly shifting their smartphone, it has more become, from vendors like Apple or Samsung to hold those users for a longer duration. So services like videos, streaming services like, subscription-based gaming is the hour of need for these vendors if they want to sustain their existing user base in the global markets.
Right. Harish, on the news app offering, what do you think is the rationale there? They have overhauled the news app with new offerings. What is your sense? What is your take on it?
See, my sense is that there is a clear gap in the market today. I think we've seen, the news feed from Facebook actually falter very badly. A lot of junk comes through it. Google News also, so there is no curated news from sensible sources available. And I think it's all a reaction to also the fact that so much of fake news is floating around the world. So I think they're seeing what has really happened is that we've seen publishers, the entire publisher business actually come under huge challenge for the last few years. But it's coming back as people are now navigating back to sources which are trustable. And I think it's a move that an upscale audience that Apple has people who will pay for good sources of news curated in a sensible manner and done well. So I think they see an opportunity to really build out a news subscription service. They're pumping in magazines, they're pumping in newspapers. And my sense is they won't find too much of a challenge as long as they find a way to bundle the entire package very well, and which they will. I mean, you've seen them do that. So my sense is that how they bundle these services, much like that they've done with Apple Music as well, they will be able to create a market which is paid and premium. And we're seeing, you've seen how New York Times has done on the subscription front. There are several other players are now starting with to get subscription-led news businesses being built up. So this will probably work as well.
Gentlemen, we're a little pressed on time, but really appreciate both of you coming on board, sharing with us your perspectives, and also helping our viewers out to understand, Apple TV Plus with more, with a wider perspective. Thanks again for joining us. Let's move right on to our other segment where we have Rahul Dayama inside the warehouse of Hyperpure by Zomato. He spoke to the founder, Dhruv Sani, listen into the entire conversation and what it is Zomato's latest offering all about.
Hyperpure happened a few years ago. I had an idea, wanted to look at a large B2B play, solving the problem for food, looking at how we can actually address a gap in the market where restaurateurs and farmers, there's no direct linkage. So we're really looking to identify how we can bring high quality ingredients and produce directly to the restaurants. So this was an opportunity that we had. The Zomato alignment happened back in 2018, middle of 2018. And since then, we've just been looking to scale this and build this out in a massive way across multiple cities.
Bangalore, 30,000 square feet we were discussing. Delhi has been on your radar,
yes.
Massive space even than this. So what really happens, clearly we understand that this would be a big focus area for Zomato as they look to scale this up. You're solving an innovative problem, one-stop destination for all needs of a restaurant. So in expansion, what cities are really on your radar?
Yeah, so we've just launched this brand new facility about a month ago in Bangalore. And we've just launched this week in Delhi, so we're very excited about that. Delhi, we have a 40,000 square feet facility that we've gone live with. Within this year, we'll be live in the top tier 1 cities in India, and next year we'll go to the top 10 or 12 tier 2 cities. So by the end of next year, we should have about 20 to 23 such hubs operating pan-India. So it's a massive scaling operation that we are undertaking.
Got it. Also one interesting thing is, and I want to stop by at this, and a lot of your focus also is on partnership with farmers. A lot of this that I see around, you were telling me, is local produce.
Yes.
So that is crucial, right? In terms of not only bridging gap for restaurants, but working with farmer communities to ensure you source the right thing at the right time, working with them. How has that experience been working with farmers?
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest motivations for us, is getting better food for more people. And through our restaurant partners, our endeavor is to work with local farmers, local producers, local processors to bring across the freshest, high quality ingredients to them on an everyday basis. And this is something that I think we're able to fulfill with the support of all the farmers and various processors across the local ecosystem. There's a big gap and there's an opportunity for us to actually do this pan-India, and that's what we're focused on.
Take us through what are the trends that are standing out from a restaurant perspective, considering you partner with several thousand of them, and what interesting experiences have you had working with them while you're able to solve this problem? What are they really looking for in terms of a potential problem?
See, the biggest thing that they're looking for is convenience, right? In an industry where they have to work with 30, 40 different vendors and suppliers, reliability of high quality ingredients is a massive issue. So what we're solving, a big problem for them, is that now they can work with a one-stop solution, which is Hyperpure. Come to us. You could be a caterer, you could be a small Italian restaurant, or you could be a very large chain. You have this platform available to you to discover a multitude of ingredients, right? So we have over 2,000 products, food ingredients that we have available on offer, which is a very vast range, and restaurants can look at innovating on menus and new ideas and discover food ingredients that they didn't know were available.
You spoke about the fact that there are 2,000 plus ingredients under one single roof. But the fact that Zomato is now a global brand present in 20 plus 24 countries, it's natural for you to also look at taking this outside, because the problem, Dhruv, is the same. Restaurants globally have the same problem in terms of procuring the right stuff. So by when would you look at taking this beyond India, or is India really the focus initially at least?
I mean, initially at least, India is definitely the focus. Our markets here have a huge opportunity. We're in multiple cities as Zomato, and what we are looking to do is also get presence in the top tier 1 cities this year. Next year we'll go to the top tier 2 cities. And then we'll also look at exploring if we want to take this internationally.
What has your biggest learning been so far building this up? Is it also about ensuring that, the fact that you are engaging with the farmer community, there are a lot of touch points, so to say, that you really impact through this?
Yeah, so I think there are three parts to this, right? There is the farmer and the producer, there is the restaurant, and there is the end consumer. If we start with the end consumer, for the first time the end consumer can actually start building trust on food ingredients. And for every restaurant that sources through us, they get a Hyperpure tag. So that starts creating trust on the restaurants and therefore on the food supply chain. And we are bringing, at the end of the day, the farmer closer to the end consumer, right? So sourcing directly, getting food from reliable, sustainable sources is all that this supply chain is about. And in the process, we obviously have to solve for the complexity that exists in a market like India.
But, talking about the trust deficit itself, for consumers, otherwise as well, there's so much of concern around the quality of food, the products. So is this Zomato's also larger plan at bridging that trust deficit?
Absolutely.
For you to know that your food is coming from a reliable source and to give them a sense that, Zomato is also controlling the supply chain, in that sense, assuring them about quality concerns, because there are quality concerns irrespective all the time.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing we're doing is focus on quality. High quality ingredients, and the way we do that is we've got third-party labs that actually do independent testing, whether it's delivering antibiotic residue-free chicken or focus on helping grow chemical residue-free crops. The endeavor is to bring the best ingredients to the consumer which they can actually trust. And someone like Zomato through Hyperpure is actually able to do that.
Meanwhile, it's third innings for the founders of Fabmart and Fabmall as they launched their venture in the FMCG space. Vetheeswaran, who is also hailed as the first Indian e-commerce entrepreneur, is eyeing the beverage segment this time around. Rahul Dayama caught up with the founders of Again for more.
Most people want to do startups in the areas that you're comfortable with. I actually think completely differently. If that were the case, I wouldn't do e-commerce in 99. I believe that entrepreneurs are essentially problem solvers. If there is a problem that can be solved, you have to think from base principles, any problem can be solved. So people keep saying it's not rocket science, or is it rocket science? The fact of the matter is even rocket science can be solved if you think about it. We found a problem interesting enough to be solved. That it is in the FMCG area is actually a matter of detail. It was a problem worth going after. As far as I'm concerned, I think we will think about it and we'll solve the problem. Certainly I didn't want to get into an area that we didn't. So I didn't want to do e-commerce. I didn't want to do artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, all of that actually hold no interest to me.
Got it.
Right? So I wanted to be in a completely different area.
Got it. I know the offering in the beverages space, you would say, is quite distinct from what is there, but it is again a crowded space. You have to strike those retail partnerships to ensure that the product is visible. So it is a difficult business in that sense, considering it's crowded. How would you really tide over that problem?
I think, so the first thing therefore we did was we wanted to create a product which was extremely unique. Because unless you don't have a product which is different or differentiated from the market, I think you definitely have a challenge with distribution and retail. I think we believe that with the products that we created, we've solved the first problem significantly. And then on top of that, if you add the retail experience that both of us carry, I think that helps us getting into distribution far more, relatively easily. It's definitely a challenge. In any consumer business, it's time consuming. I think with our experience and with our, knowing the people in the retail industry, that probably helps us take a great product to the market earlier than what others would be able to do.
Got it. It is also, sir, a capital-intensive business, so to say. You will have to raise rounds when you're looking to expand to cities. You're in Bangalore right now. How would that come by? Have you already reached out to investors? How much are you looking to close to really ensure you expand the business? Because you would want this to be a national and probably take this international too.
Yeah, so we have raised early stage investment from individuals, but we are already looking for the first round of funding, and we will keep expanding. We've reached out, we've had early conversations with some people, but we are in the market to raise an early stage round, and we will move on to the pre-series A and the series A. I agree with you, this is going to be capital intensive, but the good thing is there are a whole lot of funds that are now entering India, focusing on consumers, focusing on consumer branding, food and beverage. So we do believe access to capital is available provided you have a unique product. And the good thing for both of us is, given our background, I mean, we are not kids out of college, right? Given the fact that we are in retail, I mean, we are at the retirement age, right? At least I am, not him. The fact that we are have so much of experience, we do believe access to capital should not be a challenge.